Tansei, I'm Kristen Achkate. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. The family of the late Ashlee Shingoose will finally be able to share their grief with the judge who put her murderer behind bars. It's an important opportunity they were denied during the serial killer's court proceedings last summer, when Shingoose's identity was still unknown and was simply referred to as Muskiping Bijiikwe, or Buffalo Woman, in the first-degree murder charges. Sav Jonza brings us this brief report.
31-year-old Ashlee Shingoose went missing in March of 2022 in downtown Winnipeg. It was around this time that 3 other First Nations women were murdered by Jeremy Skibicki, who was served a life sentence in 2024. Shingoose is believed to be the first victim. Her family searched for answers regarding her disappearance for years, believing she may be Buffalo Woman. DNA evidence as well as post-sentencing assistance from Skibicki confirmed her identity in March of this year. The Manitoba Court of King's Bench says at the request of the Crown, a hearing will be held August 15th to receive the victim and community impact statements of her family and community. They say it is a process both appropriate and necessary given the exceptional circumstances of the trial. It is believed her remains lay in Winnipeg's Brady Road landfill. The province of Manitoba has previously announced it will search the landfill for Shingoose's remains.
A woman has died and another man is in serious condition after a shooting northwest of Brandon, Manitoba. On Monday, July 28th at around 2:45 a.m., Yellowhead RCMP received a report of a shooting at a home in Kisikuwinin First Nation, just south of Riding Mountain National Park. When police arrived, they found 2 people suffering from gunshot wounds. Emergency response performed CPR on the 33-year-old woman who was suffering from serious injuries. However, she was later pronounced deceased. A 26-year-old man was also treated on scene and airlifted by Stars Air ambulance in serious condition. Manitoba RCMP are now looking for this man, 52-year-old Frank Laforge from Kisikuwinin. Laforge is wanted for first-degree murder and attempted murder. Laforge is 5'8", 150 pounds with brown eyes and a bald head. RCMP says if you see Laforge, do not approach him and instead call 911. Laforge is believed to be in the Yellowhead area and has connections to Kamsack and Yorkton in Saskatchewan. If anyone knows where Laforge is, contact RCMP or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. A man who was shot and killed in a courtroom in a First Nation in northwestern Ontario has now been identified. According to Wapekika First Nation, the man was 23-year-old Tyrese Kenny Pedro Cree Roundsky. According to the Special Investigations Unit, on Thursday, July 31st, Roundsky approached a police officer with a knife inside a temporary courtroom that was housed at a youth center in Wapekika. The SIU says the man and the officer had a brief interaction before the officer shot Roundsky, who was pronounced deceased. A crisis support worker is available for the community and funeral arrangements are underway. The First Nation says Roundsky will be missed by his family and friends. Manitoba RCMP are asking for the public's help in locating a man who was allegedly involved in an abduction in a First Nation north of Winnipeg. RCMP is looking for 29-year-old Alan Marston from Lake St. Martin First Nation. He has been charged with abduction, assault, and breaking and entering. Last Friday, on August 1st at around 10:30 p.m., RCMP received a report of an armed man who broke into a home in the First Nation and possibly took 2 children. RCMP says a woman was home with her 5 children and 3 other adults when a man she knew broke in and began threatening everyone with a homemade weapon. The adults and 3 of the children escaped, but the 2 youngest were left inside. When police arrived, they found the 1-year-old sleeping safely, but the 2-year-old and the armed man weren't inside the home. Police found the 2-year-old unharmed in a nearby home. Anyone who knows where Marston is, you're asked to contact RCMP or Crime Stoppers. Prime Minister Mark Carney kicked off the Métis Major Projects Summit in Ottawa this morning. The meeting is part of the Liberal government's promise to engage with Indigenous rights holders over its contentious Economic Development Legislation Bill C5 that was rushed through Parliament in the spring. The leadership of the Métis Nations of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Ontario are attending the summit, but the Manitoba Métis Federation is boycotting the meeting because of the presence of the MNO. In a short address, Carney laid out the role Indigenous people will play in Bill C-5 projects.
Respecting the rights of Indigenous peoples is at the core of the Building Canada Act. It's embedded in the law itself. This law requires meaningful consultation with Indigenous peoples, both in the process of determining which projects are in the national interest and in the development of the conditions for each project. And also, to be clear, this is a meeting about discussing the overall approach. This is not the start of consultation.
The First Nations Bank of Canada is announcing that it successfully closed a $9 million equity investment deal by 5 Indigenous investors. The First Nations Bank says the new capital will support the bank's continued loan book expansion, and it plans to use the new capital to meet the ever-growing demand for lending from Indigenous governments, entrepreneurs, and businesses from across the country. The 5 Indigenous-led organizations who provided the funds include Whitefish Lake First Nation, Ujo Developments, Doige River First Nation, Dana Jilly Trust, and Athabasca Basin Development. Bill Lomax, the president and CEO for the First Nations Bank of Canada, says the investments will help accelerate economic reconciliation and drive more prosperity to Indigenous communities.
If you look back even 20 years ago, Canadian Indigenous groups really were just getting started from a business standpoint. So, it was band offices and gas stations, right? Now we see manufacturing groups, out there doing, metalwork. Pro Metal, for example, is a great example of that kind of thing. We see up in the Yukon, we see all sorts of businesses going. It's actually one of our busiest areas. We see a wide range of businesses, from hotels to service centers. Construction service centers. So it's really pretty exciting.
Lomax says they are excited to continue to serve the Indigenous community and are set to break more financial records later in the year. The First Nations Bank of Canada was founded in 1996. It's 88% Indigenous owned and is focused on providing financial services to the Indigenous marketplace in Canada. When Treaty 4 was signed in 1874, the federal government was obligated to provide agricultural benefits to signing First Nations. However, those promises and conditions were never fulfilled until now, as more and more First Nations throughout Saskatchewan are settling up with Ottawa on these promises. The latest of them is the Muskiping First Nation in Saskatchewan. CTV's Brittany Poitras has the story.
A historic meeting took place on Muskiping First Nation, where community and leadership welcomed the federal minister Rebecca Alty for the nation's agricultural benefits claim signing ceremony.
Not a lot of ministers come to the nations. It's always we meet them on their turf, but she took the opportunity to want to come to Muskiping.
Alty began her new role as Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations 2 months ago, and Muskiping was her first stop. The discussion surrounded the terms of Treaty 4, mainly the Agricultural Benefits Clause.
This agreement between our two nations recognizes Canada's failure to fulfill its Treaty 4 obligations to provide agriculture benefits, including farming tools, crops, seeds, and livestock.
Both Chief Tavita and Minister Alty agree that the federal government has not held up their end of the agreement until now.
It was one of our obligations under treaty, and so it's important that we're fulfilling it. It is 150 years late, but that's where it's important to come today and to meet with Chief and Council.
It makes me feel good that Canada is accepting that wrongdoing, and Canada is trying to make things right in the way that they can.
The minister says that although settlements were reached, the treaty right to farming equipment and livestock is still applicable.
It was one of the commitments under the treaty, and so making sure that we're implementing it now.
Tavita says the $98.9 million settlement can pave the way for many different developments, including initiatives to make on-reserve housing more accessible.
And this money will certainly help us with new homes, retrofits, or renovations. So we're excited about this. It's going to put Muskiping in a good position.
While today marks a first for Minister Alty, it also marks a new beginning for the Muskiping First Nation. For Indigenous Circle, I'm Brittany Poitras.
We have to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll tell you about a business camp at the First Nations University in Regina. Welcome back. It's that time of year again. Young people from across the country are taking part in a variety of summer camps. They include everything from band camp to science camp, but there's one in Regina that brings out the best in the business. Here now is First Nations University student Alex Brass with that story.
And we have Frank as our partner.
They call themselves the Res Rides, 4 young Indigenous people with a business idea, one they feel will change the world, or maybe just the reserve. But their immediate goal is to gain some interest to those gathered in this room.
Res Rides was to be an Uber app for the reservation, because Uber wouldn't go to the reservation or nothing like that. So we decided to bring a company on the reservation.
They are part of this year's Indigenous Youth Entrepreneurship Camp. 20 high school students, mostly from Saskatchewan, spent 1 week developing a business plan. On the last day, they were tasked with presenting it as though it were a real business plan, complete with financials and target audience. Jason Bird is a lecturer in FNU's Indigenous Business Department. For several years, he's played a role making the camps a reality.
We want them to have the understanding of what university feels like. So they come in, they're in sessions, we teach a little bit of classes, there's a lot of group work, so they're working together, and they're living on campus, having food here, kind of like a student that would be living on campus. They're living that life for a week.
On this last day, family members, sponsors, and instructors cheered them on. Everyone leaves with a feeling of accomplishment and a newfound knowledge.
It's a great opportunity for Indigenous youth that this money is put aside for Indigenous students, and also to teach us about business and getting that kind of going in your head early on.
Everyone here is a winner. Not only do they present their ideas and take in the applause, there's an added bonus. They also get to choose a gift from the table filled with high-quality items to help them in their future.
This is the 15th year of the Indigenous Youth Entrepreneurship Camp. Plans are already underway for next summer. In Regina, I'm Alex Brass.
The longest-running powwow in northeastern North America is held every August long weekend on Manitoulin Island. APTN's Annette Francis attended the festivities this past weekend and brings us a series of stories this week. Her first story is about the history and how the event has evolved over the years.
Hundreds gathered for the grand entry of Wukong First Nations annual powwow celebration. Among the dancers is Karen Pheasant. She's surprised at this year's crowd.
I'm a university professor in Alberta, so I haven't been to our home powwow in quite a few years. And when I came yesterday morning at 10:30 in the morning, which I thought was early, it was packed. I just cannot get over it. And there's so many people that, today I was pointing at this one or that dancer, and it's my generation. They're retired, and so they're coming back home.
Wukong held its first powwow back in 1961. Pheasant says it was a group of women that wanted to bring the celebration of song and dance to the community.
It's my auntie, Marjorie Mishabinishma, and a few other ladies, Josephine Green, Josephine Pelche. A few of the ladies, most of them were teachers. And they wanted to bring that, and it was a practice that was more common in the prairie provinces. So a delegation of these women went to the prairie provinces, I think it's Saskatchewan, and went to observe, went to watch, and brought kind of a synopsis or a piece of that culture back to Wukong. It was still new. The church to this day still has strong influence and impact. So and even though it was 1951 when the Indian Act changed, we still were in the mire of it, so to say. And so the powwow came, but it was on a stage in the arena.
Gordy Ojic remembers that time. He and his brother snuck into the old arena to see what was happening. That's what inspired him to learn more about his culture and traditions. He's been dancing ever since.
We're looking at this banging and we see these people sitting on this, it was a stage. Mind you, the first time we had a powwow, they used to put that powwow on a stage, like a show, like Country Wild Bill West show. You remember Wild Bill West? West Show was, I think that was their idea when they had these Indians. I'll call them Indians because that's the first, when we first seen them, they were Indians to us, because we seen them and they had like the roach, the Indian gear on. They're practicing and they're singing yo 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 yo, and then me and Scanner going like, nah, let's get.
According to Pheasant, the powwow eventually moved from the stage to these grounds, and interest grew.
During the civil rights era, the late 60s and early 70s, during the American Indian movement, AIM, there was a big splurge. So we were so huge, we were so big during that time, during the civil rights era of the late 60s, early 70s. And then in 1985, when Bill C-31 and the rights for Indigenous women to regain their rights, I think research has shown that there was a population increase and people wanting to reclaim their identity, their culture. And I do recall in the late 80s, there was another explosion of interest and activity, people returning back to the reserves.
The event draws thousands of visitors every year. Luke Wasagijic says that's why Wukong Tourism has been hosting a cultural pavilion since 2014.
we get a lot of European visitors and a lot of Canadian visitors, but it's also, it's about providing education, right? So we have workshops throughout the weekend on history of the Great Lakes. We have arts presentations. We have a special smoke dance presentation. So it's all about providing educational opportunities for the visitors.
This year's attendance was a record number.
This year is a very large event. We have over 500 dancers. We have a number of drums here. And yesterday I was told within a 2-hour time span, over 3,000 people came through the gates. So it's really showing how big this event has grown for Wukong, and I can't say enough how proud I am of our community, our events coordinators, all the volunteers, and all of the dancers and the drums who have come to participate in our cultural event this weekend.
For Pheasant, the practice of powwow is about cultural sustainability.
Talking with my children, my grandchildren, I'm telling them this isn't just about putting some stuff off and on and hopping around. It's about the sacredness. It's about to incorrectly use an English word, holy. This is very sacred, and I tell my grandchildren, take care of this and it will take care of you as this has taken care of me and now my children.
We'll have more from the powwow tomorrow. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Wukong First Nation.
And a short correction, Thunderchild First Nation in Saskatchewan holds the oldest powwow. We now want to tell you about this week's second web poll question. Over on the website we ask, should cannabis shops on reserves be subject to federal laws? You can answer yes, no, or unsure. Go to our website at aptnnews.ca/polls to have your say. We'll post the results next week. We have more news after the break. Stay with us. Must-see Cho for staying with us. St. John's 24 and sunny there. Charlottetown 23. Cartwright 26. Nain 23 and partly cloudy. Quebec City 25 and sunny there. Montreal 24. Sun's out in Toronto at 24. Sault Ste. Marie 24. 24 in Sudbury. Sioux Lookout, sunny and 23. Smoky in the Pod, 19. Norway House, 23 in Smoky. Smoky and Dauphin at 21. Gimli, 21. Smoky in Yorkton at 21. Regina, 18. Lots of smoke in northern Saskatchewan. Buffalo Narrows, 21. Larange, 20. Sunny in Peace River at 27. Fort McMurray, 25. Rain in Lethbridge at 20. Medicine Hat, 22. Smoky and Tofino at 14. Vancouver, 19. Smithers, 17. Prince George, 24. Beaver Creek, 18 in rain. Watson Lake, 19. 15 in Wrigley. Wati, 20. Inuvik, 12. Colville Lake, 13 in sun. Chesterfield, rain and 17. Whale Cove, 10. And Arctic Bay, 5. Aglulik, showers and 7. A young man from the Ebb and Flow First Nation in Manitoba is heading to Bangkok this fall to play in the Thailand Global Basketball League. APTN Sierra Bettens caught up with athlete Seth McKenzie to hear more about his journey.
After a successful college basketball career, Seth McKenzie was ready to head off the court.
Like no plans of doing anything else. I was just kind of content where things finished.
Then, an opportunity 12 time zones and 12,000 kilometers away came knocking, and he couldn't pass it up.
I saw this opportunity come up of this team was like, hey, like we're looking for players, DM us your film and like we'll talk. So that's exactly what I did.
In September, McKenzie is jetting off to Bangkok, Thailand to play professional basketball.
My team is Overseas Supreme, or it's a part of the Thailand Global Basketball League. It's a league made up of 20 teams, and we're all based in Thailand.
A member of the Ebb and Flow First Nation in Treaty 2, McKenzie grew up in Winnipeg and began playing basketball in grade 7.
My brother influenced me to play basketball. When I first started playing, I wasn't too sure because I wasn't really good, but the more time he took with me, the easier it got, and the more I just fell in love with it instantly.
When senior year rolled around, he was determined to play at the college level.
I just didn't really have the right support that players typically get. When I got to my grade 12 year, I started reaching out to different coaches, and it was always, oh, we're filled, like try again next year, we're not looking for someone your position and size. And then I contacted CMU, and me and the coach got along, hit it off pretty well.
The 6-foot-tall shooting guard played for the Canadian Mennonite University Blazers in Winnipeg for 4 years, where he averaged 16 points per game. After earning his bachelor's degree in psychology, he signed a year-long basketball contract with Columbia Bible College in Abbotsford, BC.
To travel to like Vancouver Island, Kelowna, it was just a wonderful experience that last year for us.
While still in Manitoba, McKenzie is playing for the War Chiefs, an Indigenous men's basketball team. As he prepares for his first adventure overseas, he's looking forward to representing his community on a global stage.
I'm just really excited to represent a lot of people like myself, Indigenous people, represent Winnipeg at the same time, and just represent who we are.
Sierra Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Congratulations to Seth. We wish you a safe journey to Thailand. And that's your daytime newscast for this Thursday. Sav Jones will be back here in a few hours for your evening newscast. Please join us then. From our HQ in downtown Winnipeg, hi miigwech masicho. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next day.